I started doing my own content back in July, and then Aman right here is one of my best friends, big 49er fan, follows the football in general. So I was like, dude, like let's do a weekly live stream and just after every game we'll recap and do some previews and whatnot. So we literally just started doing this, but I've been working like in sports industry ever since I got out of college. So
yeah, that's what your uncle said. He says you've been working for like Bleacher Report and stuff like that.
I worked for Bally Sports, Yahoo Sports,
oh, wow.
NBC Sports, and then I worked at Channel 4 News up in San Francisco for a bit out of college. So
oh wow, that's dope. Maybe you got some connections that I can use.
Hey, bro, you scratch my back, I'll scratch yours. Don't worry. Let me know how I can help. I appreciate it.
yeah, no doubt. Appreciate you.
All right, well, let's go ahead and get started. So special episode today as we have Raj. I don't even know your last name. I just know you as Raj. That's how you know when you're known by just one name.
Yeah, last name's Melwani.
Raj Melwani. If you guys are a true 49ers fan, then you follow our SF 49ers on Instagram and on TikTok. Raj is the one who runs that account, the one who founded that account, and he was gracious enough to join us today on the deep dive. Raj, thanks for joining us, man.
Yeah, pleasure to be here, man. Thanks for having me on here, and it's always good to be talking ball, Niner football. Even in these dark times, it's always good to be talking Niner football.
Yeah, it is definitely dark times right now, unfortunately. Aman and I, we were both actually at the game on Sunday, and then the environment was mostly good up until the last 2 minutes and 26 seconds of the game. Let's start with this. Who's to blame for this loss? Let's get right into it. Do you put the blame on Kyle Shanahan? Is it on Brock Purdy in the offense? Is it the defense who played good for 90% of the game, and then obviously the last drive, kind of fell apart there? Didn't help that Nick Bosa obviously missed most of the second half. But off the top of your head, like, who do you put the blame on here?
Yeah, I mean, I was at the game too, and it was kind of a weird vibe. I feel like fans this year they're not 100% back in the team because they're 5-5. We expect them to be winning. They should have 3 division games that they lost. The Rams, the Cardinals, and the Seahawks. Those are 3 games you should have won. Yep. So I could feel the frustration for the fans, but I feel like that's a tough question. It's not just one reason why they lost, and it's been every week the same issues. It's like, okay, you got a little bit of issues here, like the O-line, they're not blocking as good. The run game's not good. Kyle Shanahan's making some bad play decisions here and there. Brock Purdy's made some mistakes. Although he's played great, he has made some mistakes. The defense is just not aggressive. You can't rely on one guy, Nick Bosa, who's amazing. You take him out of that ball game. They went from allowing 3.3 yards a possession to 6 yards possession.
Nearly double the yardage.
They were running all over him. Geno Smith, guy hit the night in the bay last second. That
was disrespectful.
So yeah, I feel like it's a combination of everything. I was listening to Richard Sherman today, and he said it absolutely perfect. He says it's like a turkey plate, right, or a Thanksgiving plate. You have a little bit of everything that makes like one disaster of a plate, right? And that's pretty much the Niners. It's not one thing, but you can point fingers to all these reasons, and that usually is not a good sign for a team winning games when you have multiple factors.
Yeah, this offense, came into the game, I think number 2 in the league in total yards per game. And in this one managed to come up with less than 300 yards, only 7 points in the first half. They got a field goal in the third quarter. And then if not for that late touchdown right by Jennings, it's a pretty quiet game. And the controversy came on that final possession for them, right? They get the ball up to the midfield area. It started off really promising, right? CMC breaks out for 11 yards. Second possession gets a yard. There's a penalty, though, on the Seahawks, and you're thinking, like, all right, we're going to at least get a field goal out of this. And then they come out of I think it was a timeout. Purdy misses on a throw, throws it high. Didn't lead Debo on that. It's an incomplete pass. And then Jennings is able to get a few yards on third down, but it's not enough, right? And then here's the controversy. Seahawks call timeout to stop the clock. Niners are getting ready to punt at this point. And as soon as they're about to punt, another timeout is called, but the refs don't explain what exactly happened.
Yeah.
And according to reports, Mike Pereira, who's the former VP of officiating for the NFL, commented on this on KNBR. He said that the Seahawks did, in fact, call timeout. That was what was reported, but they just didn't say that, which in the NFL is a penalty. You're not allowed to call back-to-back timeouts, right, on a dead ball like that. Should have been a 5-yard penalty. at that point, it's a 4th and 1. Either the Niners go for it or they settle for a long field goal. Maybe it changes the outcome of the game.
100%.
What are your thoughts on that? I mean, it affects the game. It's not why they lost, right? But it is a big thing.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, that's definitely not something you want to see after the game, because I saw that too. I saw Cambiar's like a long, lengthy video, and I sat there and I was kind of sick. I was like, dang, man, to sit there and know that those little things have such an impact on the game, especially in a close game. Like, yeah, that's not the only reason that this team lost, because like I said, there's so many other issues. But again, Kyle did say that if they had got that penalty, they'd probably go for it, and instead of what happened there. So yeah, that little thing could have changed the complexion of the game. It's frustrating, but at the end of the day, you can't sit in here and say, oh, that's why we lost, because there's a lot of reasons. And again, they shouldn't have let the Seahawks hang around. The fact of the matter is they let teams hang around every single week, and the defense plays good for the most part. And then they get to this point where they fall apart at the end because their offense isn't scoring enough points. So I think it's, again, multifaceted, whereas your offense, they're not being the big explosive offense where they're, oh my God, scoring 30 points a game. They get to the red zone, they stall. And then we have special teams woes. And then the defense is tired from carrying the team. So yeah, that really pissed me off though.
Yeah, no, for sure, man. I mean, I totally agree with every sentiment that you have right now. And, this has been like a roller coaster ride. It kind of feels like 2020 all over again when they had that Super Bowl hangover, so many different injuries at so many key positions. Me and Sandeep talked about this a couple of weeks ago when we knew CMC was coming back last week, that, hey, this will jumpstart the offense, right? We finally got the most important player on our offense, arguably, coming back. But it just feels like they're missing a lot of juice still on the offense side of the ball. Like, they can move it between the 20s, but as soon as they get into the red zone, they just stall and they make mistakes. They turn the ball over. They have so many penalties in the red zone this year that you run out of so many different excuses. What is it about this offense right now that just isn't clicking?
Yeah, there's a lot of factors. Like you said, the red zone has been absolutely anemic. And, we thought CMC was going to change it. And, oh, my God, it's the magic button. But, he's still running into form. I wouldn't say he's rusty, but maybe he is, because you don't have offseason. You don't have training camp. You come in a little bit behind the 8 ball. And sometimes this is for him. It was like, it's been preseason for him trying to get back into shape. Yeah. I'm sure he works out like crazy to make sure he's in tip-top condition. But, those types of issues, the teams know, hey, CMC's here, and they're going to give him the ball. So I feel like that, not getting creative, I just don't see the creativity. We don't see Jordan Mason in there, who I think earned some carries. Give him a few plays. Let him take some pressure off of CMC. Open up the play action. They're not doing that stuff. I don't always see them testing the field downfield a lot. So a lot of those things. George Kittle not being in that game was a massive factor. We all know how big George Kittle has been this year. His last 7 games, he has a touchdown in each one of them. 7 touchdowns in the last 7 games. That's a factor. And then the O-line, I feel, has been pretty lackluster. Trent Williams is great, but even Trent Williams looked pretty average in that game. He was playing on a bad ankle, and you can see it.
I think he gave up a couple pressures in that game.
They're Brendel and McKivitz, and I just feel like there's a lot of mediocrity on that O-line, and that's been an issue since the offseason. Everybody knew it.
Yeah, the O-line we knew was going to be a problem coming into the season. We didn't know that it was going to be this bad. McKivitz, he kind of held his own as much as he possibly could last season, but when you lose a guy like Feliciano for damn near half the season and he doesn't get activated off IR, right? It's still concerning that he's not coming back, because this is the last week that they can actually bring him back. So yeah. I'm hoping it's a situation where, they thought that they could get this game without Feliciano. I think they kind of judged that wrong, because Purdy, he missed some wide open throws for sure, but I don't think he was seeing the field like he usually does because of all the pressure he gets from the inside. And the Seahawks changed their approach this game, and we saw it on Sunday. They were rushing everything up the middle, and that's why Purdy didn't have those wide open lanes that he usually gets, down the middle, because that's where his bread and butter is, not outside the numbers, right down the middle. So we're hoping that Feliciano does come back. I hope that he starts at center, because Jake Brendel has been terrible this year.
Yeah.
It's been really hard to see him play. I expect this to be his last season as well with the Niners, but that's a different story.
He was a journeyman. Good for him to get a starting job after all the years in the league, but they need a starting caliber center. He's not a starting caliber center. And as you see on the bottom, all the penalties, I wanted to get to that. This O-line is not only killing them in terms of not blocking, the running lanes weren't there. It was just pretty anemic. And Brock Purdy sometimes having to use his legs more, he's great. He shows his athleticism, but sometimes he's running for his life, not just trying to create. Those penalties. There was 9 penalties. I think 7 of them were plays on offense where it pulled them back. That is drive kills. You can't expect to score when you're going backwards. You can't. You're trying to move forward. And those penalties were devastating to this team. Absolutely.
Yeah, it was tough, man. I mean, we've talked about all season the red zone struggles, as everyone knows. That's been one of the Niners' Achilles heel, and we thought CMC coming back would help it. And they did get that late touchdowns we talked about with Jennings, which was crucial. But the penalties have been huge. And at this point in the season, it's like you're in week 11. You're a veteran team, a team that's been at the peak for the past 4 to 5 seasons. It's like those kind of things can't be happening, right? And it sucks that it happens in the red zone, but it's also happening against the teams that you need to beat when we're talking about division opponents, right? Obviously, every single week is a must-win game. But, Diamador Lenore talked about this post-game. He said in all 4 games, or 4 of the games that we lost, I think minus the Chiefs game, right? They've had leads late in the game. When you talk about the Rams, the Cardinals, and now the Seahawks, right? And their inability to put games or put teams away, part of it comes from the lack of being able to finish out drives with touchdowns, right? And it's crazy because, again, I mentioned like we're second in the league with nearly 400 yards a game, but it doesn't matter because it doesn't result in points, right?
That's it. Yeah, you drive all the way down. You running all over teams. You're scoring or you're putting up all these amazing stats. Juwan Jennings literally putting the team on his back, dragging defenders. You get 1 touchdown out of that drive. Like Jennings had to basically will the team to score. Other than that, you're driving, and it falls short, and then you miss kicks. And again, you're just absolutely falling apart when it matters. And if you can't score, I don't care how many stats you have. You could have 700 passing yards, but if none of them attributed to touchdowns, other teams are going to score because they're letting those teams just stick around, and eventually they'll figure it out. They'll make adjustments, and the Niners aren't, acclimating to their opponents. And it's so frustrating because this team is absolutely talented. It's the same players that they've had for the most part in these last couple of years that have went to NFC championships, went to Super Bowl, but maybe they're tired, maybe they're mentally drained, because that does take a toll on you. 18 weeks of football, 17 weeks of football plus the playoffs. I think it drains you, and at some point it catches up. So maybe this year it caught up to him. I feel like this year reminds me of Harbaugh's last year. I don't know if you guys remember that year. That year was crazy because it was so similar. It's like up and down. The team was so damn talented, and then they'd fall apart. They'd lose leads. Penalties killed them, and then they ended up like a 500 team. They were so average because they couldn't string together consistent victories, and that's how this season feels to me. And it's just so irritating because, again, they should have at least seven wins this season.
Yep. No, totally agree, man. And, let me ask you this, because obviously CMC is a guy who should be getting a lot of touches, right? He's the reigning offensive player of the year. We know what he did last season, but do you think Kyle Shanahan's almost trying to force feed him a little too much, even though they just got him back? Because this game, he had 23 total touches, 19 carries, 4 receptions. You see Debo only get 7 targets in this game, 4 catches, but only 22 yards. We're not seeing the typical Debo where he's getting the ball and we're seeing 20 yards after the catch, 12 yards after the catch, right? Ricky Pearsall last week had the best game of his rookie season. This week, 2 targets, no catches, and that was it. Do you feel like, we're relying on CMC too much, and that's why we're not seeing the creativity in the offense that we're used to seeing in past seasons?
Yeah, for sure. I think that's 100% what it is. Is Kyle could not wait to get him back. We were like, oh my God, when he came back. But I think he's looking at CMC as he's the savior. Oh my God, now I could just give him the ball and he's going to do what he does and everything's going to be great. But you're not counting in for, you don't have Kittle, the O-line's not blocking. He's still not 100% maybe in terms of game speed. He's trying to get conditioned back to where he was. It's amazing player, but at the same time, you're just throwing him the ball. And again, running him up the middle for 1-yard draw plays, not really using CMC to his best abilities. Use those check downs. I don't see enough of that. Not using the screen plays. Like, you just feel like they're just saying, okay, here, CMC, take the ball and be the best player in the league, like instead of being very decisive of how they use them. And Debo, I love Debo. I've always been a fan, but the injuries have piled up with him. I think it's catching up with him. Again, 6 years in the league, playing every year, getting down to the end of the season. He plays physical. He had pneumonia this year. So, yeah, that probably has affected him a little bit. He's definitely not as fast as he was. They're not using, the big creative plays, but they give it to jet sweep on him. He doesn't have that speed to hit the outside corner. And, CMC probably shouldn't be getting that many carries. You should try to get Mason in there. Get Garendo. Those two guys, when CMC was out, they really held their own. So,
yep.
I think that is causing the play action not to even be like nobody is afraid of the 49ers play action game. Nobody is.
Yeah. Just to kind of like harp on that, given everything that's happened this season, they're sitting at 5-5 right now. They still have, 2 divisional games left against the Cardinals and the Rams, which are going to be huge. They're going to be must wins at this point of the season if they want to do something. But do you think that they can salvage this season?
They got to win out. I mean, honestly, if they don't beat the Green Bay Packers, I feel like it's very, very bleak for them to make the playoffs, because I think right now they're at about 27-28% to make the playoffs. And I think that they'd have to win the division. It's very close. It's still a tight race, but you lose to the Packers, your percentage goes down to 13%. I was reading, and you beat them, you got up to maybe like 35-40% chance. So you got to win against the Packers. NFC opponent, you start losing games not only to your division, but the conference and the NFC. It's just going to be a high ladder decline, because the NFC, you get the Lions, they have a lot, they have barely any losses. The Vikings, they've strung together a big amount of wins, early in the season. The Eagles, the Commanders, all those teams have a plethora of wins compared to the Niners. So it would be a very hard ladder to climb to get there. I still think there's a chance if they win this weekend, but I feel like if the 49ers lose on Sunday to the Packers, it's probably not looking too good for them.
Yeah, it's crazy because it's definitely a winnable game, right? Green Bay comes in at 7-3. I was looking at some of their stats right before this. Their defense has been hyped up a lot, but they're giving up 21 points a game. Their average against the run and the pass. Their pass rush is average as well. Jordan Love is tied for 11 interceptions, which is most in the NFL. So they are turnover prone. But when we were at the game today, we were talking and we're like, this loss, it seems like it was kind of like the one that put the nail in the coffin for the season.
Yeah,
it
felt like it.
I don't know what's going to improve magically in these upcoming weeks. That's going to look like a different 49ers team than what we've seen through the first 11 weeks, right? Because the first half of the schedule was the easy part of the schedule. That's like you said, they should have been 7-2, 7-3 right now, right?
At the very least. Yeah, for sure.
We knew the Chiefs game was going to be tough. The Vikings obviously caught us off guard. That's a loss you take on your chest, right? But those 3 games that they should have won is the 3 division ones. And now you go to Green Bay, you're playing Buffalo. We still have Miami left. We still have Detroit left. Chicago is going to be a tough game, even though they're coming here, right? That's a defense that's getting very physical this year. So it's going to be hard. And the more these losses kind of, pile on, I feel like the harder it gets, not just physically, but more so mentally than anything, right? And this is, remember, coming off of the Super Bowl loss last year. And it seems like this is not even a Super Bowl hangover. This is like, I don't think we've seen anything like this with the team. I don't know what it is, but this Niners team has just been dejected from like all fronts.
Yeah, absolutely. I think they're mentally worn out. And not only that, but you start losing these games when it's down to the wire and you're 5-5 and then you lose your next game. You got players that are hurt that probably don't want to come back, because they're going to say, hey, what am I going to play the rest of the season, get hurt on a meaningless game? If it gets to the point where let's say they're 5-7, you think Greenlaw wants to come back and play, risk himself, coming off.
What's the point, right? At that point,
it's tough. So you got to win these games. And I know everybody wants Greenlaw back. I think we've all been hammering the table for him. But at the same time, he comes back, you're putting so much stress on him to be this superhero, just like CMC. And it's just too much pressure on one man. And that's why I feel like it's hard with the 49ers, because they put so much pressure on like one guy, Nick Bosa. You lose him, the defensive line can't even seem to get pressure. Fred Warner, he's kind of been, the ace this season. He's the man. He's so good. We saw the first half of the season, defensive player of the year. Second half of the season, I think I saw a stat today, his last 30 targets, he's let up 30 receptions, which sucks. But he's been trying to play superhero because he doesn't have Dre Greenlaw. He's playing, to make up for the lack of skill that Devondre Campbell has been having out there. So it's tough. It puts stress on these guys. It's frustrating. Your superheroes start kind of wearing down, and then they get hurt, like Bosa, and then they play through things, and then it gets mental where they're like, I can't play through this injury. Then they got to sit. And then if you sit a star, it's like, oh, crap, we're probably going to lose, And then you got players like Trent Williams last week. He played through the injury, and he didn't look 100%, and he probably should have sat. And then Kittle, he could have played, but at the same time, it was risky, so he couldn't play. And then that was a huge loss. So all these things are mounting up against the 49ers, and time is running out. You lose this game against Seattle. Like you said it was the Seahawks game that you believe was the nail in the coffin. I still think they got one more nail. This is the weekend. If they nail this one in, it's over.
Yeah, they're running out of nails to nail in, that's for sure.
Yeah, for sure.
But, we're definitely looking forward, obviously, to how the rest of the season shapes out. But, you're 10 games into the season, and you've shown that you're still a 500 ball club with, a top 5 payroll in the NFL. The main cogs are still there. Yes, we're missing guys like Greenlaw and CMC missed, damn near half the season. But you still had so many superstar players, these first 10 weeks that have been huge key difference makers in previous years, like Debo, Trent Williams. And these guys are the ones that are letting us down right now with their play. And, that wear and tear that you talk about, right? They've been in so many deep runs the last 5 years. How much is it more about the physical toll at this point than the mental? Because it does seem like they are slowing down.
I think it's both. Like we mentioned the mental, but I think we have to respect the fact that physically these guys are just banged up, playing a lot of games deep into the season. Kittle last year, I can't remember what podcast he was on, but he said that after every season, he feels like his body is just so beat up and he has to take so much breaks. And he says after every game, he feels like he was like ran over by a semi-truck. Like that's every week. Now imagine the whole season, you get ran over by a semi-truck every week, 18, or 20, 23 weeks, because you're going deep into the playoffs. Your body's messed up. So every player goes through that and then they got to train and grind and then prepare and then having the heartbreak of a Super Bowl. I think physically this team really is just beat down. And you could tell, this season, they don't look explosive. They don't look like they're out there just bullying teams. I feel like one thing that I've noticed is teams, they're not afraid of the 49ers. Before you play the 49ers, you're like, play the 49ers, they're going to beat me up. Now it's like, 49ers, whatever, we can bully them around. I think teams are pushing us around. Like Lenore last week, he got pushed around by Kenneth Wright, and he was pissed after the game, rightfully so. He called him a conehead, but teams are trying to hit the Niners and get in their head because usually Niners are the ones that get in their head.
Yeah. Sure. It's like you guys both touched on this, right? There's no juice this season, and usually the guys that bring that juice are Christian McCaffrey, who obviously was out for most of the time. Debo's missed a few weeks, but he's a big guy who has explosive ability, right? And then on the defensive side, it's two guys. It's Fred and it's Dre. And obviously we haven't had Dre this season, right? Dre will make a play, and yes, he'll get a 15-yard penalty for pushing the Eagles coach on the sideline, but it gets the team going, it gets everyone hyped, right? And that's what we like to see. And we just don't have that this season. And when you put that on top of the fact that, again, the Super Bowl loss looming, everything kind of just comes into play. And unfortunately for this team, it's reflected on the field. And like you said, Raj, and you too, Cooner, they have maybe one more nail left, and that's it, right? You drop this game to Green Bay. I don't see them going into Buffalo and winning against a Bills team that just beat the Chiefs, and Josh Allen's playing like an MVP right now, right? So this Green Bay game is obviously the next game is always the most important game, but this one is probably going to make or break their season. And one or two more losses, you have to start considering, all right, when we're officially out of the playoff picture, is it time to just put some guys on ice, right? Because you don't want to risk Christian McCaffrey getting hurt going into next season. Brock Purdy at some point, who knows? I mean, he's on a contract year, right? He's due for a big pay raise. Maybe when there's a couple games left, he's dealing with a shoulder injury himself too. There's going to be some conversations they have to have about, what the best decision is going into the offseason.
Yeah, no, you're right. There's just too many guys that are risky. If you lose these next two games, like you said, you're going to probably see what you have in terms of the younger players because a lot of contracts are up. I think they have 36, 38 expiring contracts. You need to see who's going to be back next year. The one thing was like, I know Greenlaw, the decision to play him is going to be big because if you're out of it, do you keep him in? Do you see what you got out of him? Or do you let him just sit out and not risk anything? Because if you don't play Dre, he's a free agent. Either way, he's a free agent. Are you going to bring him back? Do you know, like, you don't know what you have in him. So it's like you might have to play him in these games if they become meaningless. That's going to be a tough one to see what you have in some of these players. Hufanga, is he worth coming back this rest of the season? It's tough. You want your veterans to be there if you have a run, but if you're not going to be in it to make a run, you probably let them sit and you see what you have out of, D Winters and Jalen Graham and et cetera, Malik Mustafa. These rookies have been fantastic. So that's the really good thing is we have a really good draft class. And I think that's going to help with making some decisions and some of these players with expiring contracts. Some of them might not be there, but then you got to realize, okay, we got to retool a little bit, get some free agents, kind of look in the mirror and see what you got to do to improve this team because some of these guys aren't going to be here. And that's the reality. And again, if we want to make a run with this squad, this is probably it. You got to win this game against Green Bay. Or like you said, I don't see much of a run coming out of here. Buffalo, man, Josh Allen, to me, if the season ended right now, he's the MVP. He just went down to Kansas City and beat the undefeated Chiefs, man. This guy's having a phenomenal season. And a lot of people say Lamar is the MVP, which, you can make that argument, but he's got a great team on him. Flowers, Henry. Before Amari Cooper came out there to Buffalo, there he's throwing to like young bucks, people that pretty much are non-existent to most people. Like, who's that?
And even Cooper's only had like one good game so far.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Josh Allen is a one-man show, man. He's a one-man show.
He's good. So I'm nervous about that game coming up, but let's focus on the Packers. Hopefully we can beat them.
Yeah, all right. I know you got to get out of here soon, man, but I do want to ask you about Kyle Shanahan because there's been a lot of talk about him every single week, and especially right now. We've talked about him a bunch on this show. I don't think they're going to let him go after this season because obviously they've had a lot to deal with when you think about injuries.
Yeah.
But at some point, the conversation is going to have to be had. Let's say next season this team is healthy, they have their guys, a good roster, and for whatever reason they don't get it done. Do you think that conversation is going to be had that maybe Kyle Shanahan?
At some point he's got to have that hot seat conversation. I think this year he's got a little bit of time. He's bought himself some time, which probably people don't want to hear. Niner fans are kind of sour on him, but he has taken this team to NFC Championship. He has taken this team to Super Bowl, all that. I know he hasn't won. He's turned this team around. Before that they had bad coaches. We know all that. We know all the Chip Kelly, this and that. But bottom line, he can deliver his championship, and that's what we want. But I think getting rid of him now would be short-sighted. To Shanahan's credit, he is a good coach. He just can't win the big one. It takes some coaches years. Sometimes they don't. But if he ever did get fired or they release him, he'll get a job like that. He won't last in the unemployment line too long. So
25 teams will sign up for him right away.
Absolutely. A lot of teams will take him. He has a huge coaching tree, so I don't think he'll have a problem. But sometimes you coach a team for so long and sometimes it doesn't work out. And then you lose that joy. I feel like he's just not having fun out there. And I do like Kyle. I think he's had a heck of a run, but this definitely isn't the year. And things have caught up to him. I think he'll get another chance after this year, however it goes. If they don't make the playoffs, you got to give him the benefit of the doubt because he has really resurrected this team from the dead. And you see what he can do. You give him another offseason. You give him some big-time players. You make one more run, you give him his quarterback, you go give him some money in the offseason, sign some players, and you give him one more shot. If he has a healthy team and craps the bed again, then you got to have that conversation.
You think hiring an offensive coordinator, just having him just handle head coaching duties would make a big difference?
I know a lot of people say that. I've said that before. I think it would help, but, he is the offensive guru. But I think he puts a lot of pressure on himself by doing that. It wouldn't hurt to help him out, man. But he's the type of guy that's just stubborn. It goes
very
with
controlling.
He likes to control things with the Brock. He likes to control things with giving all the carries to CMC. Like he's set in his ways, and it's got to be his way or the highway. I don't think he'd want someone to help him out, which I don't even think it's a bad thing. It's not like you're saying, "Oh, I can't do it. I need help." It's just lessening the burden on it. At some point, coaching becomes stressful. You've seen the gray hairs on him, man. Like, get some help. Take it easy on you. But I do think this offseason, however the season goes, they need to get an established defensive coordinator. No, I know Sorensen knows the defense. He's a team guy. The team loves him, blah, blah, blah. They need a guy that's an actual DC. This guy's never been a DC before. He's new to the game. I know Salah and D'Amico were before, but I feel like they were a different breed. Like, they're good coaches. This guy, Sorensen, to me, seems like more of just positional coach. He just doesn't seem to have that DC role in his blood. It's unfortunate for him, and it's unfortunate for the Niners. I think season Kyle's big decision, and I know he got rid of the DC already, Steve Wilkes, but he needs to go out there and get an established, like, dominating defensive coordinator. Go get somebody that's a dog. I mean, I know he tried to get Spags. Spags ain't living in Kansas City. He's got the best job in the world. Try to get Belly. Belly doesn't want to take a DC job. He wants a head coach job. So get someone that's a legit defensive coordinator that can coach your damn defense, because Sorensen's not the guy.
Yeah, we're so spoiled, right? Like you mentioned, we've had Rob Salah in the past, D'Amico Ryans, and anytime there's a big third down stop or an interception or a sack, you'd see these guys on the sideline flexing, getting pumped, players coach, right? Fist bumping, chest bumping these guys. I don't think I've seen Nick Swanson once on the TV this year, and if it was, it was maybe showing a bad, like, defensive graphic stat.
Yeah. This last game, I always watch the game back, and I watched it, because I was at the game like you guys, so I rewatched the telecast. There was a bad play, and you could just see Sorensen. He was just like, that's how I was like, that's all you're gonna show. He doesn't have, like, emotion.
Yeah, I mean, if they can bring Salah back, man, that'd be great. I know he's with the Packers right now and in an assistant offensive position, but if Kyle Shanahan picks up that phone and is like, hey, come back here, I'd be damned if he didn't want to come back to the 49ers.
I hope he could do that. Pay that man whatever he wants. But at this point, I'm sure Salah's looking for a head coach job, but he's chilling, man. He's making like $20K a day. He's still getting all those luxury, all the royalties from the Jets, and he's probably laughing at the Jets.
Yeah, like 1 in 4 since he got fired.
Yeah.
Trash.
Bad.
Yeah, man. We'll see how things go from here. Like I said, I'm as much as a 49er fan as both of you guys or anyone watching, but this team is just slowly making me, like, lose faith. This is, again, it's a winnable game. So if we do win, I wouldn't be surprised. But I think this team just needs to, like, mentally lock in. And week 12, I mean, let's see what they can do. They got Charvarius Ward coming back this week, which would be a big help. Kittle, I think, is supposed to practice tomorrow. So he's most likely going to play. Yeah. Nick Bosa is going to be the big one, right? We'll see what it is.
He's probably out this week.
Yeah, there's a chance he doesn't play.
He probably won't practice, and then he'll give it a test this weekend to see. He's going to be one of those game time decisions.
Yeah.
My guess is he won't play. Cold weather, Green Bay, the hip injury.
And the oblique now too. So, like, multiple injuries, right? It's going to be tough. And if there's no Bosa out there, man, it could be a tough game. But at least getting some guys back will make a difference for sure. We'll see if it's for the better or for the worse come Sunday.
Yeah, I mean, Kittle being back will be huge. And like you guys mentioned earlier, Jordan Love is prone to throwing turnovers. That, I think, is going to be the saving grace for the 49ers. If they can get some turnovers forced on Jordan Love, they'll have a chance to win this game. But you got to finish drives. Man, if Bosa doesn't play, I don't know. And Leonard Floyd played really good last week. That was his best game, but that was when Bosa was in the game. So that's tough.
Yeah, we'll see, man. I think, like you said, this is going to make or break the season for sure. You win this game, you still have a bit of a chance. You lose this, and then it only gets harder. So we'll see how it goes. Our uncle in the comments earlier said that you think the Niners should go for Rodgers in the offseason. No, I don't think so.
God, please, no, that guy's done.
No.
If this was 3-4 years ago, I was all in, but at this point, no.
No, man. He got his coach fired, his GM fired. He'll come. You know what? If you don't want, this is what I'll say. Actually, if you guys are not fans of Kyle Shanahan, go get Aaron Rodgers. He'll get him fired immediately.
That's facts, man.
Yeah.
Maybe that's the one thing that would make Niners happy.
maybe he'd get Kyle out of there real quick. It'd be a shit show though. But yeah, definitely don't get him. Oh man, yeah, this is gonna be a tough week, but I'm still hopeful. I'm gonna be there in Green Bay, so they better win while I'm out there. So.
Oh, you're gonna be out there in the cold watching the game?
That's gonna be sick. That's gonna be
sick.
I'm
gonna be at Lambeau. I mean, I feel like it's an experience. I've never been to Lambeau, so I kind of was like, maybe this is the year I go. So hopefully they don't disappoint me if I go there. Now I'm looking at them like this might be the year I shouldn't have went to Lambeau. So we'll see. I need them to get a dub for me. I don't want to fly all the way to Milwaukee and leave with the L.
Yeah, if they get a dub, we're gonna need you to sneak onto the field and do a Lambeau leap for us. Make sure you're
recorded. For sure. I'm gonna have good seats, so I might be low enough to do that. I don't know if they'll ever let me back, but it'll be worth it.
Okay, you'll go viral and have a lifetime memory.
Yeah, I'll definitely be viral on that one. Like this idiot.
Hey Raj, man, we appreciate you so much for coming on. Again, for everyone who's watching, everyone in the comments, please follow our SF 49ers on Instagram and Twitter. It is one of the best football accounts, the best 49er account out there. And as you guys can tell, Raj is a great 49ers knowledge, great football knowledge, and just a solid guy too. Who would have thought we'd have three brown guys talking about sports on the screen, right?
Yeah, I love it, man. We got to follow in Sham's footsteps. That's my guy. I love Shams. We got to keep the brown culture represented. So I love it. Appreciate for having me on here. Thank you guys. Hit me up, man. You guys got my number. So in the future, if I got some time, I'll definitely come on and help you guys out and talk ball with you guys. So it's always fun, man. Good stuff. Appreciate you.
Thanks, man.
We appreciate it, man. And I got to give a shout out to our uncle who helped set this up. If you guys live in South San Jose, go check out Boss Man Pizza, one of the best pizza places in the Bay Area and in San Jose. Go check it out. Thank you, our uncle, for helping us set this up. And to everyone for watching, please subscribe to the Deep Dive on YouTube, and we will catch you guys next week, hopefully talking about a 49ers dub.
Thanks,
I
guys.
hope so.